million people perished. Today, Germany's Chancellor described it as the darkest and most terrible chapter in the country's history. Tonight, Reporting Scotland commemorates the anniversary with the story of one survivor. Susan Singerman settled in Glasgow just after her own liberation. Yet it was years before she could talk of her experiences. Now she says it must never be forgotten. March 1944, 17-year-old Susan and her 9-year-old sister Martha, Hungarian Jews whose biggest worry then was their homework. 3 months later, they and their family were rounded up and herded into cattle trucks.
In our truck, it was my parents, my sister, my grandmother, my mother's mother, and my mother's younger sister and her younger daughter. If I thought at all, I assume we imagine that the young ones will go to work and the old ones will stay at home.
Susan's father was immediately taken away. She never saw him again. Her mother, her grandmother and sister joined the thousands in lines in front of the notorious Dr. Joseph Mengele. Susan was the only one selected to live.
Behind Mengele there was this Red Cross van, and I thought vaguely the time this must be for people who feel ill and they'll be taken to the hospital. What I didn't know was that the Zyklon B gas was in it, and it accompanied the people to the gas chambers. So probably an hour later, they were all dead.
And so began Susan's battle to survive.
As if it was all a nightmare. It wasn't really happening. I'd wake up any moment. Don't forget, the thing was, I didn't know where we were, how long we were going there, and why we were there.
3 months later, Susan was sent to a munitions factory, and then on the march to another death camp, Belsen, she was freed by the Americans. She became an interpreter for the military, then moved to Scotland to be with a great-uncle and his family. But 10 years ago, she went back to Auschwitz.
I went up on this observation platform kind of thing at the main gate as you go in, and I looked down, and I thought, this is another planet. And I tried to remember to visualize myself, the person who had been there all those years ago. And again, it was as if that had been another life, somebody else completely. I feel, you know, people ought to hear that it was true, it did happen, and I was there.
Can you forgive and forget?
Forget, no, and I'm afraid I can't even forgive.
The memories of an Auschwitz survivor. Well, onto the weather now. Much